So I have shared my screen. I hope you people can able to see that. So as we discussed, we are going to see about ASM implementation today. How we are going to do that, and the prerequisite for this is you need to have a VMware software installed on top of VMware software. You need to have one fresh Linux machine. And that is what I have here on the screen what you are seeing. So with this I am going to initiate how we are going to do the ASM installation. So I am following a particular document. This document contains briefly about ASM, and then it will be having the steps on how to perform ASM implementation. So I'm just following this document. So the first step says perform all the OS preparation steps that we generally doing it. So like editing the HOSTS file or editing the sysctl.conf etc. So which we can do it at a later point of time also. And the second point says you need to create groups like DBA and all. So even that also we can do it later. So I'm jumping directly to the third step. And the third step says we need to install something called the RPMs. So RPMs are like the extra packages that we are going to install on a Linux operating system. So whenever you want to install ASM or whenever you want to configure ASM, the first thing that you need to do is you need to install ASM related RPMs. And these are also called as ASM libraries. So either you call it as ASM library or you call it as RPMs, it's one and same. So we need to actually install those RPMs. So first I am connecting to the server. So I connected to the server, and we have four simple RPMs of a very lesser size frankly. So we have a zip file over here in Windows machine. I am just copying that using WinSCP to this server. So I am using WinSCP here. And these RPMs should be updated, or these RPMs should be installed with the help of root user. So you should not do it with any other user. So I'm just transferring the files to U03 location. So it's very simple size, or very less size, so we don't require to wait for long time. So now you can see there is a zip file here. So I am just running an unzip utility. So the moment you run unzip utility, you will be seeing four files will be extracted, like what you are seeing on the screen. So these are all called as ASM libraries, and we need to install them. And to install them, we have a command, and we need to follow that command, rpm-ivh. Then you need to provide your ASM RPM name. So even this was written in document also. So rpm-ivh, then you need to give the first file name. So the first file name is like this, Oracle ASM-2.6 etc. So when I run this, you can see it is saying package so and so is already installed. So when it is saying that the package is already installed, we don't require to worry about it. We can continue with the next one. So I am proceeding with the second RPM installation, and this is also saying that it is already installed, so that is fine. and proceeding for the third one. And now you can see the third one has not installed. That's the reason you have not seen any message like already installed. So third one, it got installed, and then comes the fourth one. So here you can see some warning is being displayed, like there is no key or key ID so and so and all. You can actually ignore these warnings. It's not of a big deal. So what we require is these 4 RPMs are existing or not. So if you look at here, even the fourth one is also already installed. So that means whenever you install Oracle Enterprise Linux, basically the operating system what we are using is Oracle Enterprise Linux. So when you install Oracle Enterprise Linux, 3 packages or 3 RPMs will come automatically. Only 1 RPM which is not there, we installed it separately. So, but when you run the same commands on a Red Hat Linux or any other level of Linux operating systems, then it won't give you any message that it is already installed. So, it will get installed during that time. So, this is the first step that you are going to do. And after you install this, you need to shut down your server. So, you can use init command. So you can use the init 0 command in order to shut down, or you can go and issue shutdown option here also. So under VMware, whatever it is. So I'm just proceeding with init 0 command. So you can see the data, the server is going for shutdown. Okay. So once the server has been shut down, as we discussed yesterday, ASM is a software which is used to manage SAN, and the SAN is nothing but a group of hard disks. So what we are going to do now is we are going to add some more hard disks to this existing machine, and for that you need to go and click on this option, edit virtual machine settings. So once you click on that, you will be getting an option to add. Here you can see there is a add button. So you need to click on this add. Now there are several options that what you can add, but what we are going to add is a hard disk. So first option it is, so I am selecting the same and clicking on next. I need to select the first one itself, like creating a new virtual hard disk, and virtual disk type I am going to select it as SCSI only, which is recommended, and in mode I need to select I need to check this as independent. So when I say it is independent, it means that it should behave as a separate hard disk. So that is the mode that I am selecting, and then I need to decide the size. Do you want 10 GB or 20 GB, whatever be the space. So let's say I am proceeding with 20 GB, so clicking on next. So you need to specify the name for the virtual, the disk here, and you need to also specify the location. So the location, it is by default taking in D, and under D there is a folder called found.dba, so it is taking under that. But if at all we want to change the name, we can change it. For example, I am changing that to a name like this, asm-0.vmdk, and the moment I say finish, you can see one hard disk is there, which is of 60 GB. That is what we generally have the partitions and all. And apart from that, we have another hard disk which we added just now, so which is of 20 GB in size. So like this, depends on the space that is available, you can add a number of disks. Again, I am clicking on add, next, next. I am selecting this as independent, next, and here I am saying asm-1 and finish. So one more hard disk. So like this, let's say I will add so I have added 4 disks to the server. So that means it's just like a sandbox which is having 4 hard disks. So you just added that to the server and say OK. Now you can see 4 disks here, hard disk 2, 3, 4 and 5, along with the original hard disk what is there on the top. And now you need to click on this power on button. So you need to start your Linux machine again. So are there any queries? We actually got started with Samir. Probably I can share you the video, okay? Yeah, exactly, Sanjay. These are all like the external hard disk that we are adding. we can split as far as I believe, but I am not sure how exactly it will be done because it's more a kind of Unix admin job rather than DBA job. So there is something like I mean, if you want to divide a hard disk, then basically into drives and all. In Windows, actually, we go by something called partition manager. There will be a software like that. So using which we can divide one hard disk into multiple partitions, or one drive into multiple partitions. And coming to your question, Samir, yes, exactly. Whatever the drive space that we have, we are going to add that as different hard disks. So for example, I have the space in D drive here. So what I did is, whatever 105 GB is there, for example, so I have added that 105 GB as different hard disks to this server. So now that server is up and running. Now the interesting factor here is, if you say df-h, you will not be able to see the new hard disk that you have added. Why? Because you have not formatted them. Okay, so that's the reason you will not be able to see whatever the new hard disks, that is almost 80 GB. So we added 4 disks with 20 GB each. So that will not be shown here under df-h. So now we are going to follow some process in order to make those 4 disks to be shown under this system. So let us follow that, but well before we have a query. Yes, Sanjay. The D drive is the internal hard disk that we have, and from that we are taking the space and we are going to add that as a new disk to the VMware machine. So that's why I told you, this cannot be done on a physical server. Compulsory, you need to have a VMware Linux machine. Then only it's possible. So we are proceeding to the 5th step. So 5th step, what we need to do is we need to execute a command fdisk /dev/sdb. So why we need to start with SDB? Why can't we start with SDA? Why? Because the 60 GB disk whatever we have earlier, so which is divided into U01, U02 and other mount points, this is already represented with the name SDA. So that's the reason the newly added disk should start with the next serial number, that is SDB. So we are going to run that command here. Disk /dev/sdb, and here whenever you type this command, it is going to ask you some option, some information. So you need to provide for some options, and here those options are already included. So first you need to press N, that is for new. N stands for new. And here E stands for extended partition, or P stands for primary partition. So we are not going to create it as extended partition. So extended partition means it will go and add to the existing mount point like U01 and all. But we want that as a separate disk. So we are going with P, that is primary partition. And next it will ask for primary partition number. So you can give any number between 1 to 4, but usually we go with 1. And then it asks about cylinder. Here you don't enter anything. You just hit enter button so that it will take default value. And here also you are going to enter. and now you are going to say W, which means you want to make, or you want to create that partition. So this is what you are going to do, and similarly you are going to run it for SDC, first N, then P, then 1, then 2 times you are going to hit enter button, and then W. So similarly for this one, because we added 4 disks, we need to do it 4 times. So that is what we are going to do. And now whatever the 4 disks that we have added, or we are going to configure that with ASM, or I mean to say whatever the ASM libraries that we have installed as the first step, those ASM software should able to recognize these 4 disks. So for that we are going to execute one command here. So that is /init d etc init d Oracle ASM configure, and here it will ask you for the user. The username would be Oracle, and the default group will be DBA. Then here when it is asking to start ASM library server whenever the Linux system is rebooting, you need to say yes, and fix permissions yes. So then whatever the ASM disks, or whatever the 4 disks that we have added, so that will be detected by ASM. And after we do that, we are going to enable that things. So this is what another command we are going to do. And now we are whatever the disks that are added at the OS level, we are going to make those disks to be created as the disk at ASM level. So I mean now that ASM has detected the disk, but it need to use the disk. So to use the disk, we are going to create that in a ASM format, and for that we are going to use the command like this. So /etc Oracle ASM create a disk, and you need to give some name here. So I'm taking it as df1, and you need to say sdb1. So earlier we used SDB, and now we are using SDB1 because it is the first partition. So that's why we are going to use that command. Then similarly you are going to make it as df2 and SDC1. Then df3 SDB1 and df4 SDE1. So here you should be very careful in naming convention, because generally whenever you are in hurry, instead of SDC1 you might type SDB2, because the above one is SDB1, then SDB2, so you might type it wrongly, then entire configuration may go wrong. So whenever you are practicing, please be patient and take some time and clearly follow the steps. And now we are going to list down what are all the disks that we have created. Oops, sorry, the command is list disks. So it's not create disks. So it is. So Oracle ASM list disks, then it should show you the 4 disks that we have added with the names DF1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay. So now we need to copy run install, sorry, we need to copy 10G software to this particular machine. So again I am taking WinSCP for that. And we need to perform all the prerequisite steps. So you know already for 10G installation what are all the steps you need to do. So I am taking the same, I am changing the ownership on the file systems. Then I need to edit kernel parameters, you know that already. So whatever the 10G prerequisites are there, you need to just go through them. And now I am copying the software, 10G software, and this I am doing as Oracle user. So if you remember earlier RPMs, we have copied them as root user because RPM installation should be done as a root user only. And now I am doing this one as Oracle user. Okay, so this is the software I have. I will copy it. So meanwhile this is getting copied. Anyone is having queries? Okay, so the file has been copied. Now I am going to unzip that file. So unzip is also done. Now we need to invoke run installer. For that I am invoking VNC server. Going to BDO3 database and invoking run installer. So what we are going to do now is we are going to create ASM instance first. So if you want to use ASM for your database, first you need to create ASM instance. So that is what we are going to do. And for that, the installation, whatever we are doing, it's pretty same. I mean, there is no change here. We will be doing that when we invoke DBCA. So installation of the software is pretty same as normal 10G software. So this will be installed in the normal file system like in U01. So because we have not yet used that hard disks, the external hard disks, whatever we have added. So while it is getting installed, I am just setting my batch profiles. Uh, Not exactly a database. We require a fresh Linux machine without installing software also. Why? Because if you install the software, whatever the other tasks that we have performed till now, like those also might not work. So that's the reason. Always better to take a fresh machine with a fresh Linux software. Uh, if the installation is successful, then it's fine. If the installation is not successful, then you will not be able to do that. I mean, the 10G software will not work properly. So now that the installation got successful, we need to invoke DVCA. So I am executing bash profile here also and invoking DVCA. So here in DVCA we are not going to create a database first, rather we are going to configure ASM first. So for that I am selecting the third option, configure automatic storage management, and it is saying that a service should run, and to run that service we actually need to execute a command. So, and this command we need to execute as a root user, and the command is what you are seeing on the screen, u01 or r10g bin slash local config space add. So this is the command that we need to run, and this might take some 2 or 3 minutes of time. So basically what it will do is it will create a service, and we call that service as a cluster synchronization service. or shortly called as CSS. So what this CSS service is going to do is, it is going to every time do the attendance of all the 4 hard disks. So suppose tomorrow down the line we create one database and we are using ASM, and all of a sudden if one out of 4 external hard disks that we have added, let's say one hard disk got corrupted, then somebody should report us to the system, or it should write in alert log and all. So who will be doing that is basically this service called Cluster Synchronization Service, CSS. Yeah, always root.sh and orinst root.sh, we need to run it through root user. Okay, so now it got create, it is up and running now. So I am saying okay, and now again press next. So then it will ask you to provide some sys password. You can give any password of your wish. Now there is a message on the screen which says DBCA will now create and start the ASM instance, and after ASM instance is started, you can create the disk groups. So that is what I said. To use ASM, we need to have this ASM instance created, and the moment ASM instance is created, if you can check that using this command ts-ef grep smon. You can see there is a smon process running with ASM name. So the next screen is this one, where you need to create something called a disk group. So what is basically a disk group is, suppose here I have 4 hard disks. So instead of having them as 4 hard disks, we can combine two hard disks into something called disk group. So it is like the table space and data files concept. So table space is nothing but a group of data files. Similarly, a disk group is nothing but a group of hard disks. So to create the disk group, I am clicking on this button, create new, and you can see whatever the disks that we have created, df1 to df4, those are listed here. So based on this, we are going to create one disk group. For an example, I am creating the first disk group with the name data01, and here you are seeing something called redundancy. So redundancy is nothing but the failure group or the mirror copy. So yesterday we were talking about the advantages of ASM. One advantage I said it is striping, that means the data will be splitted across all the hard disks. And the second one is mirroring, that means if you have another SAN, the data can be copied, duplicate copy will be maintained. So this redundancy is going to talk about that thing. So if you say external redundancy, that means you don't want to have any duplicate copy of the hard disk. And if you say normal redundancy, that means for existing hard disk, you want to have a duplicate copy of one more hard disk. And when you say high redundancy, that means you want to have 2 copies. So that means, for example, if I go for normal redundancy, here you can see there is a disk called df1. So for df1, if you want to use another disk as a mirror copy or duplicate copy, then you can mention this redundancy level as normal. But even in the real time also, most of the times we don't use the duplicate copy, because for that again we need to have we need to purchase a separate hard disk. Like already SAN is having some set of hard disks. So for this SAN again you need to purchase another SAN. So if you want to have a duplicate, so that's the reason that is a cost investment. So people in real time also will usually prefer to go for external hard disk, external redundancy, That means no backup copies or no duplicate copies. So here I am creating one disk group by the name data01 and I am selecting the first two disks. So that means DF1 and DF2 combined together. From now onwards we are calling it as data01. So once you say OK, then it is going to create a disk group. And again I am creating one more disk, and this time I am saying data02. Again I am going for external redundancy, and for data02 I am adding only one disk. So it is not mandatory that two disks should be there in the disk group. You can add one disk itself, and in future I can add some more disk. And I am creating one more disk group with the name arc, where I want to store my archive files, and for that again I am adding one more thing. Okay, sorry, I need to select this one. So, so now we have totally 3 groups, and the moment we say finish, it will ask you whether you want to perform any other operation. Yes, we want to perform it because we are going to create a database now. So you will be seeing there is a slight change in database creation process. So I am going to create a database with the name ProdDB. I am not selecting for Enterprise Manager as of now. And for sys and system I can use any passwords. And here in this particular screen, the storage mechanism, we are going to select it as ASM. So till now we are using file systems, but today we are going to use ASM, so I am selecting that option. And now you can see whatever the disk groups we have added there in the previous phase, those disk groups are appearing here. So here if you select all the disk groups, then it means that you want to use all the disk groups for this database. If you select only one, then it means that you want to use only one disk group. I want to use all of the above, so I selected all the 3. And now you can see where you want your data files and all should go to. So let's say I want my files should go to data01, and redo log files and control files I want in data02. So in data01 data files will be there, and data02 multiplexing copy of redo logs and controls will be there. And if you enable archiving, here I can specify my archive destination. So you can see by default it is taking archives, ARCH disk group. And one thing you can commonly observe here is whatever the disk groups that we have added, for that Oracle will append a plus symbol. So you can see for every disk group name it is adding a symbol called plus. So instead of data01 it is saying as plus data01 and all. So that is the naming convention what ASM follows. Then only those 2 screens will change, the rest of the screens are as it is. So we don't have any change in that. So now what happens is the database creation is exactly same, but the only thing is your files are going to store in ASM rather than in normal file systems like U02, U01 and all. So this is how basically we are going to configure ASM. So anyone is having questions? So if we have 12 hard disks, then we need to follow these things. I mean the initial steps, like how we configure the disks to ASM. So we need to repeat that for 12 times. That's the only difference. So here also, instead of 4 disks, like what you saw DF1, DF2 and all, you would be seeing like totally 12 things will be there. 12 disks it is going to show. So based on 12 disks, you can create whatever the number of disk groups that you want. We can place any number of hard disks. There is no limitation. Like here, if you remember, we have created data 01 with 2 disks and data 02 and arc with one disk. So anything is possible. So it's not a big deal. So now if you see, just a minute. So now if you connect here, oh sorry, it's kill SID. So now if you have a look here for data file, you can see the paths, whatever the disk groups that we have created under data01, because our database name is prod.db, so it has created like that. And data file, because these files are data files, so another directory was created like that. Similarly, if you take control file, so you can see your control file is existing in this location. And if you look at redo log files, you can see it was there here, and archives, it was there in R. So that means all your data now is being distributed to the 4 disks. So all these files, whatever we saw, these files are spread across all the 4 hard disks. So that means Oracle will use all these hard disks in a striping manner, as I said yesterday. So anyone is having queries? And later on in future, if we want to add some more disks and all, we can repeat the same process. Like you need to shut down this VMware machine, and how we added new disks, we can add like that. Again, we can invoke DBCA and we can create disk groups. So that process will be exactly same.